So I'm looking, and there are people that are like this close to each other. There are people that are taking off their masks to like eat. No one's telling them anything. I counted a dozen people coughing. And then a bunch more people that were kind of doing this. This is ridiculous. Hello everyone. So as you can kind of tell from the title of the video, I'm going to be talking about my rather disappointing experience with the California court system. For context, I live in Orange County, which has kind of historically been one of the worst places to live during this whole pancetta because we have a butt ton of COVID deniers. I got summoned for jury duty, and if you don't know what that is, consider yourself freaking lucky. I got a call in, so I went. I wasn't happy about it. I knew that if I tried to postpone it, it would just be another couple of months. It's not like I would get postponed for like a year or something, especially because they're in an emergency need. I want to talk about first how I still can't go into a Jack in the Box to get some tacos, okay? I want to make that clear. When I went to my dentist appointment, they did a full temp screening, and I had to fill out a 1-page questionnaire about my whereabouts over the last month because they wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to be a danger to the staff because they were going to be in close contact with me. I had to say where I had been, who I had been in contact with, if they had COVID, if I had any feelings of being sick. I had to explain a short list of medical things I had been experiencing if I had been. And I understand that there are tons of people that go into the courts. It's not like they can do a questionnaire for every person, but it's really not that hard to have somebody at the front asking, have you had any symptoms lately? Are you feeling okay? And then just do a quick little temp gun. When I went into Target, somebody took their mask off and one of the employees kicked them out. They said, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Hit the bricks. And when you go into a restaurant, if you decide I really have to have a friggin' bloomin' onion, and you go sit down, or you go into Joann Fabric, you're making a kind of unwritten contract that if you get sick or you come in close contact with someone who's sick and you get sick, that's on you because you made the decision to go into a non-essential business. And I know that there are people that have their own feelings about COVID and the mortality rate. That's not even what we're discussing. This is a global pandemic. This is a problem that has plagued the country for a year now, and it's still not under control, despite the fact that there are vaccines rolling out. And there are all of these businesses that are being very strict and conscious of the customer. And so here we have something at the state level, something that is mandated by the state and federal level. Being in the court system is a privilege, a right that you get as an American citizen, and that's a completely different topic. I have feelings. There was nobody that was asking if we felt okay. There was no one telling us to keep our masks on, none of that, just a bunch of signs. And I work at a place where we have signs posted all over the place, and nobody reads signs. There's nobody telling us to keep our masks on, nobody asking if we're feeling okay, no one asking if we've had symptoms, nobody with a temp gun, none of that. I go through security, there's one guard there who's behind glass, and I'm like, well, good thing that he's protected. I go to the juror service area, there's chairs that are set up in neat little rows, as if nothing is going on, as if everything is fine. So all the chairs are just normally spaced, there's no tape on them, there's no anything. People are kind of just distancing themselves by muscle memory. Hello, do you wanna say hi? Hi. But there was no distance between the chairs from the front and the back. So I'm looking, and there are people that are this close to each other. There are people that are taking off their masks to eat. No one's telling them anything. I counted a dozen people coughing. And then a bunch more people that were kind of doing this. And it's
you should not be here.
I go up, I'm panicking, and I'm what do I do? I can't leave. I heard one guy, he was in front of me, and he was so I have at-risk parents, I take care of them, I'm really worried about getting COVID, is there anywhere else I can go? And they were you can stand in the hallway, but there were tons of people in the hallway too. They were you can't go outside, you have to wait in here. So I was well, there's nowhere I can go. So I go and I sit down at a spot, and this bench goes and sits directly behind me. And I was maybe I should get up and go somewhere else, but then every other spot is directly next to some mouth breather. And I'm stuck here. So after hours of being in this building, and I was double masked, and we finally get our assignments, you'll have to go to the other courthouse at 1:30, but we'll only validate your parking once. So if you go off property, you'll have to pay for parking again. And the parking structure was 4 blocks away. We all waited outside. We were all pretty distant from each other, but there was a group of people that just clumped together, and a couple of them were coughing. So then we finally get brought inside. They finally let us in, and they sit us down in this small, unventilated, windowless room. And there were at least 16 of us that were trapped in there, and they told us we couldn't leave. Like, I wanted to go outside, but they were like, you can't go anywhere. And at that point, it's like, well, if I've been exposed, I've already been exposed. Going outside is not going to change anything. So we're all like in a room that's as big as my living room, clumped together. A couple people are like right next to each other. A couple people are just a few feet apart. And then they bring us into the actual courtroom, and the judge, who's behind glass, gives us this long spiel about how they're taking our safety as number one. They seat us 6 feet apart from each other, and there was tape, and they had like all these chairs that were set up in varying places so that we could be spread apart in this big room. And it's like, well, what does it matter now that we're socially distanced? Because for the last 7 hours, we've been in close contact with each other. We have been right on top of each other in some cases. Putting us at a distance now doesn't change the fact that some people were breathing on each other a few minutes ago in that room that you just had us in. And that went on until the end of the day, and then we had to come back and do it all over again and sit in that same windowless, ventless room. And we got the same exact spiel from the judge that day. It's like, we're taking your health seriously. We care about you. If you feel sick, you probably should stay home. Not, we want you to stay home. Not, you must stay home in order to protect everybody in this courthouse. We think it would be a good idea if you stayed home. Like, you probably should do that. Like, maybe only if you think so. Like, if you can still come in, you probably should. But like, if you don't feel good, like, maybe consider thinking about possibly staying home. To say I was disappointed, to say I was frustrated is such an understatement, because this is not something you can just say no to. It's not like you can just be like, I'm good. I'm not going to go to court. I'm not going to go do jury duty. I'm going to stay home and like sleep and be safe. Like, you can't do that. The whole process in general was really frustrating and disappointing. This has been an extremely long video, and I apologize for that. But overall, the experience was very, very negative. Even if the pancetta was not happening, I would still probably be pretty disappointed in how my experience was. Just with the length of time, with the nonsense that was going on, the actual case that I got assigned to try to be, which I got dismissed from. I can't with how disrespectful and how unsafe the conditions were, how kind of farcical everything was, that they were like, we're keeping your safety in mind, which is why we're socially distancing you in the courthouse. As if since 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 1, we were all slammed in tiny spaces and told that we couldn't leave them. While people were coughing, no one was telling anyone to keep their masks on, and I kept seeing people take their masks off to eat when there were signs that said no food. It was ridiculous. Very not good, would not recommend, did not like. I'm gonna stop yelling now. Thanks for listening. I'm getting COVID tested on Monday, so send good thoughts, send good vibes. I think it would be ignorant and naive of me to think that I wasn't exposed on some level, so hopefully my double masking managed to keep me safe. I guess we'll find out on Monday. Okay, I'm done. Bye.